Okay, my video cut me off. I really hope that I can figure out a way to put these both up with each other. I don't know. All I do when I upload videos to YouTube is I just upload it straight from my phone. Like, I don't quite know how to get it from my phone to my laptop. That's such a silly thing because I feel like that's something that I should know how to do, but I don't have like a Mac or anything, so I don't know anything about the cloud. I'm like the oldest young person you've ever met. So anyways, when I just know, I feel like that was just something of the enemy to get me off topic, and I'm not going to let it happen because when I picked up my phone, like I had this thought, I was like, I need to film this video, and then I picked up my phone, and I have a timer on my phone right now because I'm only going to let myself read for an hour and a half, which will be more like an hour when I'm done with this, to be honest with you. And when I looked at my timer, it was 1 hour, 11 minutes left, and 111, like, has been something that I've been seeing all over the place. It's that promise for abundance that I've been seeing everywhere that I mentioned in the last video that I filmed. And to me, when I saw that, I was like, yes, this is absolutely something that the Holy Spirit wants me to share right now, because who knows, there could be one person who watches my videos that just needs to hear this right now. So I mean, I don't know, that's just a really strong feeling that I have right now, is that there could be just one person who needs to hear that, it doesn't matter how lost you have been. It doesn't matter, like, what you've done. It does not matter. When you finally get freedom, when you get a taste of freedom, it is going to be so much more, like, somebody who has never faced that much oppression, when they get, freedom, when they get more freedom, they're like, oh, cool, but someone who has really faced a lot of hardship in their life, and maybe that's you've like somebody who's faced a lot of hardship, you've had a lot of chains in your life, there's been a lot of things that have held you down, and there's a lot of things that, that you just realize are owning you in your life, and it's like you feel like you have no control. When you give that over to God, like that type of freedom, like that's going to be greater than anything that you have ever felt in your life. So we were talking about the sheep in the pasture. I mean, heaven rejoices when a sinner repents. Heaven rejoices when one lost sheep comes to Jesus, because rather than, a saved person repenting over something, you know what I mean? Because that, although, God loves all of his children and heaven rejoices over all of their saved people, they're going to rejoice all the more when someone who was not saved, when someone who didn't have Jesus before comes to Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, that's an even greater party. Nobody is loved, I don't think, more than anyone else. Like, it doesn't matter who you are each individually so precious and so special to Jesus. And I'm working on a series right now that I'm watching on YouTube. It's by Mike Bickle, I think. And is that, yeah, Mike Bickle, and he does a series about Songs of Solomon. I just read that, and I was talking about it with my coworker, and she was saying, you should really do this study if you don't feel like you got, a whole lot from it. Like, I did. It's beautiful, but I think that there's more there that I needed to understand. So there's this series about Songs of Solomon, and he's done multiple series, apparently. I just watched the first one yesterday, and it's all about, Songs of Solomon is all about how we are Jesus's beloved. We are God's beloved. I mean, can you even think about that? It's like each individual person, and there's a blockage that I didn't even realize that I had, and that was like, well, there's plenty of people, what makes me special to him? Like, how every person has their own individual relationship with Jesus. Each person has their own individual love, and just because he loves everybody else in the world, just because he loves every single other child in the world, I mean, he's not like our earthly father. He's not like, our earthly friends. Like, Jesus has room, God has room for everyone. His heart is so big and so, like, how deep and how vast and how wide and how whatever, how, are the depths of his love for us. And that's something that, like, we can't even comprehend. It's beyond understanding. It's beyond our knowledge. Like, we can't even fathom how much love he has. And that is how, he can love us each so individually, so deeply. And, today I just had a moment where I was like, where it just finally clicked. And I was like, wait, like, you love me with everything that you have, but you also love everyone else with everything that you have. And I just felt I felt so beloved in that moment. And he has that same exact love for you. You are his own individual, unique, wonderful child. Like, he doesn't want to take away your uniqueness. He doesn't want you to get rid of all of the wonderful things that you are. He just wants all of the evil from your life to leave you, so that you are no longer oppressed, so that you're no longer a slave to pain, to fear, to sin, to just filth. Like, there's all of this filth in our life that we don't even see as filth. Like, oh man, what's a really good and personal example for my life that a filth that was in my life was that I was just really resentful at times, and even hateful towards my husband. Because every relationship has gone through their own things. I was holding on to so much unforgiveness. I was holding on to so many grudges, and that was a filth in my life. Every single time that I would lash out, or every single time that I would just, and it's your words do so much damage and we don't even realize it. But every time that I would just say something hurtful, or it was just filth that just kept adding to my soul. You have to be able to feel that. When you have filth in your life, you know it. When you lash out at somebody at work, or you say something nasty to someone because you're waiting too long in line somewhere, you feel filthy. It's filthy. And that's the only way to describe it. And there's so many things in our life that we just don't even realize are, adding filth to our souls. And that is all that it is. God, he wants us to have all of the joy in the world. That's everything that he wants to give us. But our human fleshly desires and our perceptions of what joy is very off from the joy that God has to give. True joy, not the counterfeit of joy, the real stuff that makes you cry when you see something nice happen, or the joy that makes you literally have butterflies in your stomach. Do you ever wonder why you don't feel that anymore? Do you ever wonder why you're walking around and you see something tragic and it doesn't even faze you? And you think, like, wow, like, stuff like that used to really affect me. It's because there's so much filth covering up our souls, and we need to get that off. We need to realize the things that are making us filthy. We need to realize the things that are keeping us farther away from our Father, keeping us farther away from all of the wonderful and amazing things that he wants to give us. So, man, that rant went in a different turn than what I thought it was going to, but maybe that's, I've always been a ranting person, and, I think I've always just spoken straight from my heart, but I think that, when I do get back on social media, I want to share the gospel. I want to just be on fire for God's, heart for us, and I want to be unapologetic about it, because maybe that is something that I'm being asked to do. Maybe that's something that, and who knows, I'm going to need a lot of humility. I'm going to need a lot of, people around me who are willing to tell me when if I start being prideful, or if I'm being fleshly, or whatever that may look like. And, God, this is kind of what I was thinking earlier when I was like, the sheep know the sound of their shepherd's voice. I always want to be that person who can recognize the voice of constructive criticism, that can recognize and love the sound of correction, and love the sound of someone who's telling me when I'm being truly wrong, because there's a difference between that and the voice of hate. And I think that that's something that I am learning to discern within myself, is that voice of just dirt, that voice of just hate, that voice of attacking, the devil's voice, or demons, versus the voice of the shepherd. When I feel like that's something that can only come from reading the word and seeing his voice, reading his voice, like getting to know him. The more that you get to know him, the more that your ear just gets tuned to hear. Give me eyes to see, ears to hear. That's what that means. At least that's one layer of it, because God knows that there's endless layers to every single message that he gives to us, and it's just so rich, and it's awesome. But the sheep know the voice of their shepherd. So if you're ever a person in my comments and you feel like you need to tell me that you think that there's something that I'm saying, or there's something that I'm doing, or whatever in my life, that you want to give me a voice of wisdom, I am gonna be all ears to that always, because there's nothing sweeter than the voice of someone who is gonna like, a loving father corrects us. A loving father, that's why we have discipline in our life sometimes. If you grew up in a household where there was no discipline, there was no structure, you never got reprimanded for anything that you did, chances are that wasn't the love that we are meant to get from our parents, from our daddies. Like, that's not and if there's so many levels to that. And I grew up in a house where I got in trouble for a lot of things, and in hindsight I'm really thankful for it, and I know that was part of the voice of love. The voice of love doesn't let us do whatever we want. If I didn't love my doggies, I would let them eat whatever they wanted to. I'd let them get into whatever, because of my own fear of them not liking me. I think that's a big thing for maybe parents, and maybe a big reason why some parents just let their kids do whatever they want. And it's because they, it's a hard thing to hear, but it's because they love what you think about them. They love their image. They love that more than they love the need to give you discipline, more than they love truth, love it takes a lot to understand that sometimes discipline, that sometimes, and not just sometimes, but always, we need to hear the voice of reason. We need to have a strong, stable voice in our lives that is gonna, in a way, lay down the rod when we're acting crazy, when we're like going the wrong way. If things didn't start kind of going crazy in my life, and I wasn't getting, judgment and discipline left and right in my life, when the way that things were before, I don't know if I would have realized ever that I was going down the wrong path. And, I know that although there were some things that I had to go through, it was the voice of love that was telling me, you can't do this to yourself, and I can't let you do this to yourself. That's the voice of the Father. That's the voice of love. And when we, get tuned into that, is when we can finally understand that, his judgment is not just about, it's always just. It is always through love, So every time we get into this, it's there's a whole nother rant, because that's the way that his word is. That's the way that his, truth is that it's never ending. It's always deeper and deeper. And it's, beautiful. This is I don't think I've ever introduced my dogs on my YouTube before, but this is Juniper. She's a very ornery doggy, and she's taught me a lot about patience. And this is Blue. We weren't planning on this. I don't know if we can. That's Blue. He's been my boy for like 7 years. He's really a good boy. He just really barks at everything. So that tests my patience too. But anyways, I hope that this message was something that somebody could hear. If there's anybody who wants to, I have no idea how YouTube works. I don't know if there's a way for people to message me.